G'day listeners, welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name is Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors. Unfortunately, I have to share the mic with my two idiot mates. So first off, let's welcome Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, Exalted One.
BP.
G'day all.
How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm good. You know when your parents retire
Yeah.
and they say they don't know how they fit it all in, the things they do, even when they retire, they're busier?
Yeah.
Well, I'm finding with lockdown, it's the same. I'm going from meeting to meeting to meeting. So when I'm not in lockdown and I'm out, doing my thing, what's the go with all these meetings?
I know, we got to fill the time. We're human beings, mate. You're driven to succeed, BP. That's your problem.
All right, go on.
Okay, let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Boyce.
Oh, you've just led me into that beautifully, BP.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
I'd like to announce my retirement from Bar Karate, the podcast.
Really?
Yep, I'm off on the Variety Club Bash. So I may or may not be responsible for my behaviour over the next week or so. So you may or may not hear from me ever again.
Ever again.
Or I could just do like a John Farnham, the Whispering Jack tour.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
just keep coming back.
I think we might just
One
call
final
you John.
tour.
I think.
One final show with Nick Bice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
No, we're off starting, well, basically as people will be listening to this, it'll be day 2.
Yeah.
And we had what they call the gold panel night last night for all the fundraisers.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, guy, we were like 13th or 14th, the highest fundraiser, 40 grand.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
The highest fundraiser, over $200,000.
Wow.
I don't even
Variety.
understand. How do you raise funds while everyone's locked down? That's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. That was the brides, they call themselves, from the Eyre Peninsula.
Well, that sounds fun.
So a bit of spare cash over there, as you do know, Jordan Spencer.
For our international guests, the Variety Club Bash is a cruise around South Australia in some pretty cool old cars.
Yep,
To raise money for the kids.
raise money. Last year was over $2 million, I think. So let's see how we go this year.
Awesome.
I do love the thought that we're going to be calling you Whispering Bice from now on.
I can see you've just written it down there. All right, we need a new lead in.
Better than Nick Jack.
Yeah. All right, boys, let's get into this because I've been dying to get this guy on the show since we started, basically.
We know.
He's just a busy man and in demand. Either that or he doesn't like me. It's one of those two. I'm going to take the first option. This guy, up until a week ago, was Australia's most successful Olympic sailor. The mantle has been stolen. Let's see if I can work it out. So 3 Olympics. 3 Olympics, 2 golds, 7 world championships, a couple of seconds in the 470 class in the third, I think, second in the Meldres 20 Worlds, 14 Australian championships, 16 World Cup wins, member of the Australian Sports Hall of Fame. I just knew him as just a regular bloke, and then he went on and put on his Superman outfit and became
Wore his undies on the outside.
became Malcolm Page.
Have you got that photo, have you?
G'day, Pagey. How are you, mate?
Welcome
Yeah,
to
g'day,
the show.
guys. Nice to be here.
It's good. It's
And how good's that of that Matt Belcher, hey?
yes.
Absolutely.
Taking the mantle piece and, yeah.
Hey, how did it feel? Did it feel strange
What?
that now that there's Matt's around and he's done what he's done? And
No, not at all. I actually doused the two of them with a bottle of champagne as soon as they come up the boat ramp.
awesome.
It's exciting.
Yes, it
that's what it's meant to be. Hopefully somebody knocks off his title very shortly, and on it goes.
That's it. That's how it's supposed to be. That's exactly right. Just keep going better and better. You don't. It's not about the ego, about yourself. It's about the team, isn't it?
Yeah, and hey, Matt and I got some history together.
Absolutely.
We won that gold medal together in London. So to see him continue on was always part of the plan, and even probably more certainly personally in my role within the boat, seeing Will achieve that because he was our training partner, and I guess he sort of was smart enough to realise that an old bloke like me was going to retire, and he jumped into those shoes and obviously done an impeccable job. So that's cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Pagey, just one of the things that we talk about before we get into you on this show, and you came from your time in the 470 was before the pumping flag came in.
No, it was always there.
Was it?
Yeah.
And so you were doing all that as well? I don't remember watching you do some of these behaviours.
I guess that it did change. So historically, in the late 90s, it used to be 12 knots and above.
Yeah.
And then over time, it dropped to 10 knots and then to 8 knots. So actually for the London Games, it was as it is now,
right.
but it hadn't involved as much. So there was certainly some pumping going on in London, but not to the extreme it is now.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I was just going to say.
Thank God.
Thank God, yeah. Yeah, it's a hard thing to watch from my eyes. I guess I'm an old stick in the mud nowadays. It's a bit weird, isn't it, coming from that perspective? But, yeah. Right, well, let's get into you first before we go down that pathway. So the Page family is a sailing family. I know that for a fact. I know your brothers, know you. So how did it all start for Malcolm?
Well, actually, Mum and Dad, or sort of any close family connection, had no connection to the sport of sailing. So it was David's fault, the oldest brother.
Yeah, Dave, yeah.
He had a mate at school that sailed and had a flying 11, which obviously are pretty popular in the east coast of Australia, and as a junior boat. And he came home from school one day and said, "I want to get a flying 11." And parents sort of looked at him and went, "What?" And
what's that?
But sure enough, being supportive parents, they did that, and him and the middle brother Michael started sailing together, and sure enough, a couple of years later, I joined them, and I started in the Manly Junior. But I still remember one moment. My grandparents had a place on the Lane Cove River, so that was our sort of access to the water, and we'd been around the water, obviously. But my two older Mina brothers, when the flying 11 was tied up to the wharf one day, I think I was 5 or 6 years old, thought it'd be fun to get the little brother and manhandle him into the boat, and in the process it half swamped, and I ended up just bawling my eyes out. So that was my first experience with a sailing boat.
Cheeky buggers! It's never been any good. Your brother, never been any good.
The good thing is, I could probably eyeball them now and at least try to push them back. But
Jordan's got a couple of brothers. There's one good-looking one smart one, and then there's Jordan.
Let's not pick on me. All right. So, for your perspective, I think you won a nationals in the flying 11, didn't you?
Yes.
So, was it? Where did the success come from? Do you reckon it was like learning from your brothers? It was banter around the dining room table, or just natural?
Don't know. Honestly, don't know. I would guess it would be a bit of a combination of all the above. I even remember the old stalwart at Hunters Hill Sailing Club where we started, Phil Briggs. He was the legend. He was the guy that you went to if you needed to know something about the sport. And I remember as a kid, always go to Phil, ask him the questions and work out how to discover what you want to work out. And I guess that. I know, and I still find it today that camaraderie, even playing at the Olympic level, although there's a little bit more cloaks and daggers that go on, there's still that, certainly within Australia, there's that camaraderie of sharing and wanting to be better every day.
Yep, you've got to have something, and I've sort of had this theory around a lot of successful families, where you get brothers or sisters or whatever, where there is actually that sort of banter over the table as well, or pushing each other. I don't know what it is, but I think the sailing has success in families is sort of a theory I've got.
We were very, very much a sporting family. Yeah. Even Mum and Dad were that way inclined. So any sport we could do, we would always be doing it. And obviously, when you come home from school, you're out in the backyard competing against each other. And I don't know, being the youngest, of the three sons that maybe that spurred me to be, a little bit more, I don't know, advanced or something. But sailing, I don't know, always was my number one sport, if that makes sense. Although I played anything that got offered to me, sailing was always the one that I went back to. And I think that was because of the freedom, that ability to be pushed off from the, I even say today, pushing off from the dock or pushing off from the beach is, to me, the best feeling you can ever get.
Yeah.
Even if it's a crapper day out in the water, it's still, better than any day it might be in the office.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice one, Jay.
We'd tend to agree with that one. So going from back then to now, just for the listeners, where are you currently located?
Still live in Sydney. Currently reside, although, as you sort of heard, I started sailing on the estuaries of Sydney Harbour.
Yeah.
But now I live on the northern beaches, so North Curl, which is just north of Manly or just near DY. So yeah, no, that's sort of where I reside. Apart from being in hotel quarantine in the Park Royal at Darling Harbour, which seems to be my residence at the moment.
Park Royal at Darling Harbour.
Darling Harbour seems to be the spot. We need to get comedy relief to go down and wander out in front, so you've got something to look at and to stop you guys being bored.
So I'm looking straight onto the Western Distributors here that loop through all the buildings.
Beautiful.
So
That's cool,
if you can get out there and do a song and dance, I'll video it for you.
Well, I'm actually only 5 minutes from there, so I might wander over and do something funny.
I love it.
Nice.
Hey, I've got a question, Paige. You said that your parents weren't sailors. When you guys started sailing and started doing what you're doing, did you pull them into it? Did they actually have a go?
Yeah, for sure. Huntersville Sailing Club was very much a volunteer-run club, especially back in those days. And Mum used to run the canteen. Dad was on the starting committee, and then Dad moved on to all the Manly Junior Flying 11 committees as he went along. And even at some stage, he actually pulled on the wetsuit and trapezed in a Manly MG. What are they? Manly graduates?
Yeah, MG14.
What are they called? MG14, yep. For the middle brother, Michael.
Wow.
So they did get involved, and even to today, he stays involved. And I know even at I'm still yet to get to this games report, but I know at my first games, he presented me this Excel or printed out Excel spreadsheet of all the mark roundings and how we went, and it really rubbed the salt into the wound. Considering how we went in Athens.
Do you think that with them starting later, obviously, to into the scene, did that add a bit more spice to the drive behind you guys?
Probably hard to know, really, especially when you're the youngest of three. You're the forgotten one. It's all about the first two. And
where's Malcolm? I don't know.
Well, we forgot him. We left him behind.
Home alone.
But they're still loving and supportive right till today. I got a phone call from them last night. How are you going in hotel quarantine? I reminded them that they're in the same thing. Being getting almost a New South Wales wide lockdown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you actually, on the way home, did you say, actually, don't take me back to New South Wales, take me somewhere else so I can walk around for a bit when I get home?
Well, sadly, the flights were being cancelled to a lot of other cities. So we were on a commercial flight back, and I know a lot of the WA folk that some of them were obviously in the race management, measurement side of the sport, and, we had a weather girl in Perth, but they've all now, a lot of them been redirected to go via Sydney. And obviously with that stuff that's just recently gone down in Adelaide with the double quarantine, a lot of them are fearful that they might, if they have to bounce to this other state, that might happen as well, which would be a killer.
Oh,
yeah, that's probably an interesting point to bring up for the international listeners. The athletes have come home, have quarantined once already and gone to another state, and they've put an issue on them. They have to do it again. 1 whole month of sitting around
in a hotel room. Jeez.
Yeah,
that's horrible. A whole different level too.
Maybe your dad could actually send an Excel to every Olympian and tell them about everything.
Performance.
Not only sailing, but around the third bend in the 400 metre or something like that. The 7th hurdle. during the hurdles.
How do you reckon that would go with the the health management,
Love it.
well-being side of things?
Yeah.
Mate, so I should point out, like you mentioned your brothers and stuff. So Dave was on the pathway to he nearly won the world champs in the 5.0 class from memory. I think that was, would have been 1990 or something like that. And I think him and Steve McConaughey got second or at a pre-Worlds or second at the Worlds or something.
In Canada, if my memory's right.
Hey?
In Canada.
In Canada, yeah, that's right. What about you? Like you were going into the 5.0 class and then the 470 thing came up and suddenly you went from being a normal human being to a stick figure. How did that process come about?
Some people still call me a stick figure, but probably blame that on Lee Napton.
Right.
Lee had a go for the 96 games, ran second in the trials in the 470, and Lee and I had junior days. He crewed for me in flying 11s, and we just had a good friendship over the years. And Lee asked me to have a go at Sydney Games, to give that a crack, and that's what was the the final straw. It wasn't the first time that I'd been asked to sort of do an Olympic campaign, but that was the final one that I said, yep, I'd like to do it. And I guess part of the reasons why I chose the 470 was I'm a bit weird. I actually like every part of our sport. So I like sailing a boat that goes slow just as much as a boat that goes fast. So, I've got a history in skiffs as well as, the one design, boring boats. But I liked all the sides of sports, the technical side, the tactical side, and all that. So I felt like the 470 at the time was the best suited to, I guess, my interest and hopefully my skill set. And also, I guess, being a 470 crew, I wasn't too far off being the optimum size until I met Victor Kovalenko, and then he told me that what I thought was right was still too high.
Probably a lot more things as well.
Well, yeah, it's a long list. We haven't got long enough, trust me.
A bit.
I still remember.
We'll talk about him later, though.
Seeing you after you got down to like Victor weight, just looking at you, and I think with Nath was the same. You guys just looked so slim. Like I was just stunned at how much weight you'd taken off.
Well, just for everyone's knowledge, I'm 6'1" tall. So 186 centimetres, and we were competing just on a standard regattas, somewhere between 68 to 71 kilos. That's for me. The skipper had to be a hell of a lot less. Beijing was very unique event, obviously, with average winds of about 6 knots. I got down to 66 kilos for that, and that was another level. But yeah, it was harder times, and now I currently sit at about 80 kilos, so I'm very happy. I've got a spare tyre or two, but
I remember I got into running for a while, and so I'm a little bit taller than you, and I got down to 80. And my mum was just about calling the police on me because she thought I was just turned into something horrendous, and you were just at a whole nother level. And Will, of course, had to do the same thing, because Will's my height, I think.
He's 6'3", yeah.
And he, he runs that 68 to 70 kilos as well. So it is quite... I reckon Victor just wanders around looking for the leanest individuals and goes, okay, you're the one.
Yeah, taller the better.
Taller the better.
Yeah.
What's the secret with Victor?
Oof. Been asked that one many, many times. He, to me, the thing that makes him brilliant is that he can look at the person and the team, but he can look at them and know what they need to do to develop as a person, to grow up as a person. And then obviously when he achieves that, and then those people then go and realise their dreams. I think he could be just successful in any sport, not just in sailing. We're just very fortunate that he's in our sport, and of course working for Australia. But I think that's his innate ability. He's the true meaning of the word coach. I always say we have a lot of people in our sport that say they're coaches or go coaching on the weekend, but there's a lot of sailing experts. But Victor is, I think, a pure example of a coach.
Coach the person, not the sport sort of thing. Yeah. I love it. That's a great discussion.
So what's the biggest thing you got from him, you personally? Like,
you might have to keep that
apart from 68 kilograms.
Well, you just scars.
Yeah, you just said that he really sorted the person out to reach their dreams.
I think it would be belief. That
good one.
That knowing that you can do it. Because even when I think about my campaigning, the first campaign, and it was probably my worst one at this too, I would talk, I'm going to win a gold medal. But did I know how? God, no. And especially when you look back in time, and think how far you've come. It was just talk. It was hot air. So, he really believed that belief structure underneath. And obviously there's a lot of trust with that as it goes along to make that happen.
I have to ask, and I'll understand if you don't answer this, because I wonder if you've ever had a conversation with Victor around this and said, who was the hardest one to get? Who was the hardest person to coach? Because I think I know who it is, but
Nathan.
Good question. You can maybe call me back on the show when I've done a little bit of research. But I'm not
so
sure
you're
if
at
that'll
day
be the
7
answer.
now of the lockdown, of your quarantine. We'll get back to you in a couple of hours. You've got a bit of time up your sleeve.
Yeah, true. I'm actually speaking to the great man pretty much daily, every second day.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because obviously he's just over the way. I look across Starling Harbour and
he's still there.
I can see him walking around. I think he needs to put some clothes on. But anyway.
Oh, that'd be a real fun experience. Like, you're with him during your programs, you're with him up at Tokyo, and then you get home and you've got him across the window in the other building.
That's crazy. Hey,
and he's still coaching you, don't you worry.
Yeah, he is. Don't sit there.
I love
That's not how you do that.
Hey, Malcolm, the question I have to ask you is, in 2008 gold medal race, you're coming, and when you... Was there any time when did you realise, when you realise you're the gold medalist, and how did your brain handle that, like going in, like the stress, when you had the realisation, the relaxation, and just that feeling of becoming like the fantasy?
And it's funny, I had a lot of flashbacks of the Beijing experience around Matt and Will this time at the Games. So I think they sort of had a very similar event, and it unfolded in very much the same way. So it was 48 hours before the medal race in Beijing. Now, obviously, that was the first Games as medal races, and we were 22 points ahead. We couldn't be beaten. And it was actually after that 10th, half out the first work in that 10th race to the final qualification race. So Nathan was the first one to say to me, hey, if it unfolds as it is at the moment, because we'd done a little jig to the right and the French had gone left, we're going to be in the bag. And so we finished that race, sort of crossed the line, and there's Victor, handing over the drink bottles and sort of looking and saying, Victor, we've done it, haven't we? And, Mr. Conservative goes, oh, no, surely. I said, no, Victor, do the maths. Surely we've done it. Yeah, well, I guess so. So I guess congratulations, shook each other's hands, and out comes the tow line, and then a good hour tow home. And it was probably the walking into the mix zone where we first realised that it was on. The media was all over you and really asking you all those questions. And different times, not in COVID times, but we went out that night. The sports minister had arrived down from Beijing, and we went out that night, and thankfully we had a reserve day the next day because there was a little bit
dust on
the next day, and thankfully we came back for the medal race. But I guess to go to when did it feel that moment of doing it, it wasn't until we stood on the podium.
Oh, okay.
So it took 48 hours. We had the pre-measurement checks, the pre-media before the medal race. We actually went and did the medal race. Obviously, we all we had to do was go around the track. But we joked for obviously the 48 hours before, we're going to do a port hander, we're going to take it easy, we're just going to cruise. But of course, Victor sits you down, basically when the orange flag goes up to 10-minute warning, he goes, boys, I want you to go out there and prove to them how good you are. You must race hard. We're like, of course we will, Victor, of course we will. But we executed a port hander and, a knock tack, and next thing we know, we're winning the race. And up to that stage, Nathan and I had been to 2 Olympic Games, 20-odd races, and we'd never done better than a third in a race.
Wow.
So we're like, hell, we're leading. What do we do now? And we spent the last lap of that race just watching who was going to get the minor medals because there was 3 boats fighting for it. And
it's almost a carbon copy, isn't it?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. So, and that was our first race we won after 2 games.
Wow.
How about that, eh?
But, yeah, standing on the podium was the moment. And, hearing our national anthem, not the 2 sets of guys either side of us, that was the moment.
It's something that not a lot of people get to experience. I guess that is it's a pretty amazing thing to try and explain to people, but I don't think anyone will really get that feeling.
No, and many sailors, because obviously for sailing at the games, it's a lot smaller fleet, especially when only one representative can go from each country, and Australia's a strong sailing country, as many others out there. But only one of them can represent. And people say, "Oh, World Championship, they must be harder to win." But maybe I always say World Championships are more physically hard, but the Olympic Games is mentally hard, and that's that prestige, the amount it's worth. I trade in all my World Championships to take an Olympic medal.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
But of course, you take all of them if you've got them. So. We're all a bit greedy,
Absolutely.
Did it change your life? Like, I know it was sort of a minor sport, but a gold medal's a gold medal. Like, did you go down to Kentucky Fried and get a free chicken, or did you?
Did you get a gold Commodore?
You get one of those stickers. Yeah, I was going to ask how many gold statesmans did you get?
0. There is certainly some privileges that come with it. Did it change my life? I don't think so. Does it open doors? Yeah, by all means. It can open doors, but, does it change decisions or, I don't know, people sponsoring you or getting things your way? No, you've got to have a good, I guess, reasonable business case for that to happen. Has it changed me? I certainly hope not. I still hope I'm the same old bloke that started out in the sport and, my parents brought me up to be and whatnot. And I know my mum would slap me down if I wasn't. So
it's obviously created a bit of a path for you now. Hence, you've just been to Tokyo. You were with the US sailing team prior to that, based around the Olympics and being successful at Olympics. So is that what exact role did you play in Tokyo?
So in Tokyo, I was the 49er coach.
Yep.
And that came about because when I came back to Australia from the US, the Victorian Institute of Sport reached out to me. Actually, they reached out to me while I was still in the US, but I was on my way back. My wife said I wasn't allowed to make a decision until I arrived in the country. But, they had a missing what they called head coach role down there, which obviously heads up their sailing program under that Institute of Sport, and said, would I come and fill the gap between then and which was like November 19 through to the Games, obviously August 2020. And in that process, I obviously got to deal with all the Victorian athletes. And one of the objectives for the VIS was for them, because they'd been an underperforming state program for some time. They hadn't had a Victorian in many years make an Olympic team, and they had never had an athlete that, once the program started, they never had an athlete that had been through the VIS and made, up into the national program and then on to and made the Games. Yes, there had been the Glenn Ashbys and the Tom Kings and the Mark Turnbulls and Jenny Lidgetts, et cetera, but they'd all just leapfrogged or not. There wasn't a VIS program. So it was sort of one of their objectives over that summer of sailing that they had down there. Eight Olympic World Championships that had over that 1920 summer, and of course youth trials and whatnot. So that was one of the objectives, and in that process, I got to work with the Phillipses, and that they just come off the back end of the Auckland Worlds, which was a little disappointing for them, and obviously with a good chance of getting the Olympic selection. So I worked with them through to Geelong, and obviously they had a great result there, coming in 5th, and won the selection, and then said to me, "Will you come with them to the games?" So a little bit of scrambling and talking to the VIS and talking to Australian Sailing and roundabout, and that got supported. So now Carrie Smith is the head coach down in Victoria, and running it there, and I still have a little bit of oversight with them and a lot of connection with them. I've been catching up with a lot of the athletes over the last few days while I'm in hotel. But so that's how I got involved with the Phillipses, and it was meant to be, just like a 9-month campaign, and ended up being, an 18-month campaign with the delay of the games, which was honestly very fortuitous with the Phillipses, and I always say time is one of the commodities that you can't control from games to games, but somehow this quad we ended up with an extra year, which was very cool. Yeah.
So you moved into the coaching role there, and just summing up the coaching side of things, has Victor taught you how to be a coach as well? Do you have all of his traits?
Well, you look at his results and look at my results. I think I've got a bit to go, but
there must be similarities in how you go about it.
For sure, and I do use a lot of Victorisms without a doubt, and I use his quotes often. I struggle with his accent and maybe his delivery, but without a doubt. I don't know if I'm successful as a coach. I think one of my strong traits, though, which helps, is that I think I'm a personable guy, and I connect with people. So, even over the last 4 or 5 months, the whole 49er squad, we're working really close together with a lot of camps up in Queensland, in Jordan's backyard. But we got to really just hang out as a team and share our knowledge and see the strengths and weaknesses of each other. And, I thought that environment was really powerful. The big, and I've replayed this in my mind. I know the Phillips boys are replaying their mind. What could have we done different to hopefully get a better result? And the thing that keeps coming to my forehead is the lack of international racing that we had over the last 18 months.
I was going to ask you that.
Well, actually, zero, not lack, zero that we had. And obviously being stuck in Australia is probably not a true comment, but we chose to stay in Australia because we had a good training squad, and the unknowns of going overseas and the hotel quarantines, the loss of time and the expense that comes with that. But that's the thing that's eating at me, that, I wish we could have. That was a box we just didn't get a chance to tick.
I guess we are heading sort of more towards the Olympics as we're heading deeper into this interview. But do you think that there was some surprise packets in the 49ers in terms of on-water performance, and that got missed because you weren't competing against them?
Probably no, from a results standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that ended up in the order of the results are no surprises. They've been there for many years.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess this unknown times that, I talked about it in my personal experience, having that confidence, that ability to do it. And, in many ways, that's what those athletes had in the bank. And the Europeans certainly have an advantage in our Eurocentric, at the Olympic end of the sport. It's very Eurocentric, with the events and the amount of competition and the amount of countries. So they had the opportunities to get together more often. They mightn't have been under, let's say, perfect regatta environments, because, even we all know the Palmer, the Princess Sophia Palmer event was, cancelled. The Hier's event was cancelled, and so on. But they're still able to get together and have high quality racing, even though it might be coach driven. So they it wasn't perfect for them either, but they probably had more opportunity certainly from a racing standpoint.
Was it talked about in the lead-up?
For sure. Certainly, I've talked, between the Phillipses and myself,
Yes.
we talked about it for sure. And it was certainly part of our decision of staying in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But we just felt the risk. And I honestly think, even as of today, knowing the result in Tokyo, if we got proposed the same scenario, I think I would say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know we could get quality time on the water, 5-6 days a week at 3 hours odd a day in a pretty good fleet. So I'd probably still make the same decision, but yeah, I'm probably just bitching and moaning about it. That's all.
No, that's all right. That's what we're here for.
I'll lend an ear.
Yeah. Bit of bar karate.
The psychologist is probably listening to this. The psychologist will listen to this and go, thanks, guys, for taking the load off my shoulders.
Yeah. Okay.
You're going to call him up today. You're going to call him up today and say, I feel really good,
Australian sailing team, you're welcome. Being like into that so much, and it sounds like it was a pretty easy transition when you left the US to just slip into that and have all these ideas and grandiosa. But let's talk a little bit about the US sailing role. That was what was your exact title? Chief of Sailing, is that right?
Chief of Olympic Sailing.
Chief of Olympic Sailing.
Chief.
And what you saw happen in Tokyo, you were kind of part of that for some time, except for the last little iteration, right?
Yeah.
US sailing, successful, unsuccessful?
Well, interesting times, certainly.
Yeah.
And I know you bring up the results at the games. It's probably been, there is certainly a little surprises in there, but surprises in the wrong way, obviously underperforming. But there was probably many averages expected as well. So, no, I guess deep down, no, not really surprised by their results. Back into my time in the US, it was just under 3 years there, and I know they had that fancy title, and I feel like I was an Indian, but it was certainly interesting. It was certainly interesting to see where USA is from a sailing program. I mean, you got to remember, before this games, they were the most medalled country, and if you certainly take it back into the 20th century, they were the dominant sailing country at an Olympic Games level. So they are obviously, and are certainly employed under this pretense that they had the vision of turning that around, what the modern game had done to their country and how they were not performing. And that's what I was brought in to do and to make a lot of changes. And it was it was a real eye-opening seeing what lack of system they have there, and I guess ultimately the barriers that I found, and that's why it ended. The barriers that they weren't willing to change and make those changes, and sad. Of course, I'm still close to many of those athletes, and like I am with many athletes around the world, I respect for them for what they do and the skill they have and what they're trying to achieve. So I'm sad for them because I really feel like, especially after this Tokyo and where they are now, that they're further from where they need to be. And
what's the difference there? Is it like an institution like the AIS or? Yeah,
they lack a lot of that. They, even when you think about it from a I guess you'd almost say Olympic Committee standpoint or even a governmental standpoint, all sports in America receive zero funding from the government. They do not have an Australian Institute of Sport or anything equivalent. The US Olympic Committee actually performs a little bit of that role, but it's also got the Olympic Committee duties of organising games and winter games and getting to all them and managing sports and whatnot. So even from a funding level, that's very different. Therefore, they don't have that base, that an Institute of Sport or government funding have. They are so under-resourced from a US sailing Olympic department standpoint. One of the things I tried to implement at the time was actually to bring in full-time coaches, because I thought that was the base that the federation, the US Sailing, had to deliver. Because that was also brings a magnet point, because all the athletes, they have the Olympic dreams just like any Australian one does, or Kiwis or Brits. But but when they go and fundraise and decide to do it themselves, they get their campaign, they're owning their campaign, which is understandable, but they don't want to share it with the guy next door, the American guy next door, because, hey, he's going to be my competitor. I want to win this spot, not them.
Yeah.
So it became very, very divided in that sense, and they'd prefer to be working with another country, not internally. So I thought, if I can get some coaching in place, that would then create, remove probably close to 40% of a big chunk of their budget that they have to self-drive, but then also create a little bit of a magnet to pool those resources and skills and train together and get some upflow.
And what you're seeing now, reading in the media, I think we've all read it and we've all seen it, that it was disappointing from their point of view, their performance. And was it Kayard? He penned a letter about what he wants to institute into it. Is he paying you some commission on your ideas?
It's a good point. I'll
Bring that up.
Hit him
reach out to Kayard and say, mate, how about it?
There's a bit of IP here, Paul. I don't know if you know the word IP. So we had the great man, JB, John Bertrand, on last week, and he talked a lot about this. And I think that's sort of what I guess they're lacking. The team side of things, the trust,
John Bertrand, Australian? John Bertrand, American?
John Bertrand, Australian, yes.
Okay.
John Bertrand, Australian. And he talked about the integrity, the honesty between teams. And that's what you're saying there seems to be what they're missing. Yeah,
without a doubt. And, I think they have potential. In many ways, even my time there, they have every bit of resource at their fingertip in that country, 300 odd million people plus. So the talent pool is wide.
Yes.
It's the biggest economy in the world. The amount of billionaires, filthy rich people that I met in our sport over there was incredible. It was mind-blowing. And also the technology. We know that's a big part in our sport. Silicon Valley, I lived half my time in the Bay Area. The Silicon Valley and what that can offer is just out of this world. So the problems, to me, really do stem back into that federation that I was unsuccessful in getting them to realise, and I wish Paul luck. I hope he can achieve that. And and spending my last basically 2 years back here in Australia, not only do I have green and gold pumping through my veins, and it's nice to be home, but also it certainly made me appreciate again what we have here in Australia from a foundation standpoint, and allowing, of course, every national federation has to build on that, but having that base is just so fortunate.
Very good comment.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's a hard sport to succeed at, and I still go back to base. I'd be interested what your view is. I think that. I think this is one of the reasons we do bar karate. It's to bring people in sailing, because the more people you have in the sport, the bigger the base of your pyramid, so the more chance of people rising to the top. And I always thought sort of the US have lost the way of just going sailing a little bit. It's more and more difficult, and there's less people sailing, in spots. And we kind of have the same problem here in Australia a little bit.
Yeah, I'd almost say they're leading that charge. They were, the almost over coaching that happens from a very young age. And I have a saying that I think that you've got to be, younger, whatever age bracket it is, whatever, but maybe even you say, single digit to teenager, you've got to just be a really good athlete. And then as you get into your later teen years, especially in the sport of sailing, maybe into your early 20s, you've got to be I think, diverse and gaining a lot of skills across our sport. Obvious ones of displacement boats, foiling boats, windsurfing, so on. Getting all those skills and understanding what that is, and then when you want to, win an Olympic medal, say, you start to specialise in your boat and your position within the boat, and it takes a long time to get to that level. So and that's sort of what you're saying too, Jordan. It's that pyramid, and I think that's really important. And I look at even most of the sailors on our team. They're bloody good sports people. They could pick up a racket and ball and have a decent game of tennis, or Matt could kick your ass, with a karate uniform on, and the list goes on there. Some of them are just really good athletes, and maybe they've chosen sailing as their one that they're really good at or got their special talent for. But I think that's something we can't forget.
Drive the base.
Hey, one question for you, Malcolm. Your time in the US, we've seen like I'm a bit of a reality TV fan.
I'm not, right?
And see the child beauty pageants and the over-parenting that goes on. Do you come across any parents like that in the sailing field in the US?
No comment.
Wow.
Oh, hell yeah, of course.
You didn't get caught up in any sort of scandal in the sense you get bribed to make sure that their kids are in the Olympic team and stuff?
No, God, no. I just bring out the Aussies and firstly they wouldn't understand what I'd said and normally just smile and nod and walk off. But,
you goddamn Aussies.
Your accent's so nice. I don't know what you said, but... but there was sort of plenty of that going on. But it's just.
Oh,
it wasn't my belief. It wasn't my belief structure, so that was easy to deal with.
With now that you're back, mate, and you're in your quarantine and you're sort of making, what's the future hold for you? What are you doing?
That's a really good question.
Right.
Don't know. Honestly, don't know. My contract was meant to end at the end of this month, but thankfully, Australian Sailing's hindsight, they extended to the end of the year, which is I think really important because like after every Olympic Games, there's always chops and changes and things that go on. So what I do know is I really want to stay involved in sport, firstly, and secondly, with sailing was ideal. It's what I love. It's what I'm passionate about. I studied electrical engineering, but I much prefer to get up every day and go and chase athletes around. I think it's much more fun. So that's what I know what I want to do. And I think the next month or so is going to be really, really interesting to see where all that unfolds. But again, I'm not scared by that. I'm not afraid of change or what opportunities might arise. But
the interesting thing is, the next Olympics is only 3 years, so it's not like
at this stage,
just shelving it. Time to get on with it.
And even personally, I felt like a bit of heart fluttering going on. Geez, it's the clock's already ticking. It's I talked about time being a commodity that we can't change, but we're going to year for last quad, but we've lost one for this quad. So it's
sure.
And the other thing, and this is not so good for Australia, or I shouldn't be so negative. It's obviously opportunity with many of these examples, but the changes of events that has occurred for 2024, in many ways, has taken away those secured, known, good, strong medal chances for Australia. And we've got to develop and change and really pick our socks up in these new disciplines and changing disciplines. When I think about 470 going mixed, and so it's there's a lot of work which has started, but when you look at the British and even the French, which I've always kept an eye on, certainly in my American role, and even when I was working for World Sailing last quad, in the Rio quad, it's now 2 ago, the they have already worked very hard and I would say are more advanced in Australia in many of those areas. So, we've got to get going.
No, exactly. I mean,
Probably where
and
it's
the
heading.
crystal ball is shrinking, but in that crystal ball, what does the Australian sailing team look like for Paris? Well, for Marseille, for that matter.
Well, it's probably not the right time to ask athletes who are going on because that it's a bit too raw. But, I hope I'm not the first to announce this, but I know Wernie was, quite vocal with me that he's definitely going to be going on. And the laser squad in Australia under Blackers has done a great job over the last 3 games, but the future there, I think, is really good and really strong. The radial program has had a really developing group that are working together that's coming through, which is awesome. 49ers have been much the same. The Phillipses were the veterans of the group, but there's a lot of young, talented guys that are in there and really powered on and actually worked really hard for the Phillipses in the the Tokyo Assault. So I think they're in a healthy spot, but saying that they've still got to get to be top world contenders, and so there's work to be done there. There always is. I don't know why I'm saying there has to be. And when you look across some of the other classes, some of them are starting afresh, and starting afresh is not a bad thing for some of them. But we've got a lot of work to do there. We're in windsurfing, we've been nowhere for a long time, and actually unsupported at many levels with those programs for a long time. So, with it going falling, it opens up the door a little, but we've lost probably a couple of generations of heritage there that aren't flowing up. And kiting, well, in many ways, that's you almost say Chrissy Fields in San Francisco is going to be leading the charge there because they've just had that group that have off the beach there for so long and have innovated the sport. So, Australia, we've probably got our kiters out there, but we don't know where we stand on a world stage and got to bring that along. So
it's almost a whole new era, isn't it, coming?
I was going to say that the US are going to shine in the kiteboarding because they exactly what you mentioned, that Chrissy Field group that produced so much of that. What about the mixed team for the 470? Any idea who that's going to be?
Yeah, no idea. Yeah. No idea. Have you given Will a call yet?
We're doing a survey.
Actually, you got to watch that Ryan family. There's lots of girls in that family too. So
that'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, but of course, Nia and Monique. Obviously, they can't sail together anymore, but they showed a lot of potential and grew up. Obviously, I'm sure they're disappointed with their result in the games, but they showed a lot of potential, especially in 2019 and coming through and starting to be real top 10 contenders.
Would you go a female skipper, male crew, or the other way around?
You're asking a 470 crew. Of course it's going to be a female skipper. You put the fat bloke on wire at the flea weight in the back, it's free speed.
I know. I'm just interested. Like you could actually, I wonder if you could downsize with a female, like you could get down to 50 kilos sort of thing, and then you could be at normal weight as a bloke. It'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Now we're talking, Jay. Now I know where you're going with this.
Not me.
Yeah, I know. Jordan's going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as this call finishes.
All need new rigs.
Yeah. Wait till you see the
96 kilo guy on the wire.
Just need to find that 40 kilo skipper.
40 kilo skipper, a Stobie pole for a mast.
And Jordan on wire.
That's it.
Yeah. But to your point, I really think 9 times out of 10, there'll be exceptions. There always is. Our sports like that, and I'll give you a real live example on that. Look at the Croatians that won the gold in the 470 men in Rio. Shime was 6 foot tall, and Igor, the crew, was 5 foot, 8. And they beat everybody, with the Matt and Will combos, and the Greek are the same with their combos. And so it's possible. There's always exceptions, but 9 times out of 10, I think it's going to be that scenario when you get the light flea weight in the back end and the weight on the wire. It's
just works.
It's worth more.
Yeah.
And you can even look at the examples in the double trapezing boats. it doesn't probably matter as much that there's a shorter or a lighter person versus as long as their overall weight is right, because it's still got that leverage factor being out on wings and out on the other hull plus the trapeze. But with a 470 that you're trapezing closer to the centre line, I think that's going to be a more stronger factor.
The taller your crew.
Yeah. Yeah. And that leverage that it creates, it's a bigger engine.
For the pumping. Our favourite. Pumping.
Yeah,
or air rooting, as we've
air rooting.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, I'm looking forward to this next few. Next 3 years. See how you go.
Yeah, good on you. Pagey, the one of the things that we didn't touch on when you went to London after winning the gold there, they got you to be the flag bearer at the end of the games. That must have been just mind-blowing. And Matt's just done it here in Tokyo. All those legends lined up behind you and you're the random dude running around with the flag. Now, I probably would have taken my clothes off and done a full nudie dash through. Did you...
that's why you're still banned from the Mount Gambier Caravan Park, mate.
Banned from everywhere. When you were doing that flag carrying thing, was that just a surreal moment? Do you still have the flag? Does that open doors?
Still have the flag, yes. It's at home in the garage. It was. I had a highlight from the 3 games that I went as an athlete, and that was my highlight in the London Games. And yeah, it's incredible. It was, and the coolest thing for me is so it was Nick Green, the chef de mission for that London team. He rang me the morning after our getting the gold medal, the celebration at the pub. And I'd broken protocol that night and didn't go back to the village and stayed with my wife and parents. They had a place there in Portland, up on the island. And I was with them when I got the phone call. And that, to actually be with my family when I got that phone call, that was the coolest bit. And, my wife and mum were crying, and that was cool because, especially from in Beijing, after screwing it up royally in Athens, I told my family, and she wasn't my wife then, she was just my girlfriend, but I told them all they couldn't come to Beijing. They couldn't come to Qingdao, where the sailing was, and watch, because they didn't come to World Championships, and we've done all right at World Championships, so I don't want you to come to the games because basically we don't want that distraction. And that was after them coming to Athens too, of course, my family. And so it actually broke my mum's heart that she wasn't able to be in Beijing and see the medal ceremony. And the sad thing was, because we won 2 days before, it was a Friday night in Sydney, and she'd arranged a flight, she'd arranged the hotel, but the embassy was closed and she couldn't get a visa because it was Friday afternoon, and the medal race was going to be Sunday. So she could have made it if she had a visa and a passport. And she was heartbroken that she wasn't able to be there for that. So there was no chance I could refuse them coming to London. I just said, don't expect to hear from me, and I'm going to stay in the village, and and I don't want to even know what you're doing. So they filled me through the whole London Games by sending me messages. Oh, we've been up in London today and we've seen this sport and we've been over here. And
have you done your washing, love?
And my dad was still sitting on the point with his, telescope and recording all the boats and the mark roundings and creating that Excel spreadsheet.
The Excel sheet.
Yep.
Oh, God.
That's
I haven't told him yet it's all on tracker, but anyway.
Yeah.
It's all computerised these days.
It's hilarious. He's been...
Hey, where's sailing rank with the other athletes? Like
Good question, Bossy.
We've had it, Matt as flag bearer, you carrying the flag, and Matt actually carrying it at the closing ceremony. Like, as far as sports are concerned, sailing is there from that point of view, but how does it rank with the other athletes?
And it's actually very well ranked. You know, you could say from the Olympic Committee or the Institute of Sport or even that governmental funding standpoint, we're ranked quite highly because we have been a very successful medal-winning sport. And actually it's the same with all the athletes. They do recognise how well we do. Yes, we are one of those sports that's over there often. We're not in the main centre. And, of course, for many of them, it's a sport they can't get or understand, but they really do want to understand and respect us. And I think, I think they really do try to get it and appreciate what we do. And actually, even to quote Ken Wallace, who was deputy chef de mission for this current games, he had the responsibility of looking after sailing, and he'd made a couple of trips down from Tokyo to our venue, and he was like, "Oh, it's so cool down here." Not only was it actually cooler, he said, because we're near the sea, but he was just so cool. I want to be here all the time. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that as soon as you went out in the motorboat, it was even 5 degrees more cooler being on the water opposed to being in the concrete boat park. But, I think it is very well respected, within that team, within the teams, from an Olympic standpoint and Institute of Sports, et cetera, et cetera. Just the media, I guess the general media doesn't understand us or recognise us as much.
Yeah,
which is a really good segue, actually. I was just going to ask you, this year in particular, I thought the coverage of the sailing was second to none. I thought it was fantastic, and it gave the layman, in apostrophes, an opportunity to understand it a bit more because of the way it was filmed, the angles, the lines on the course, the ley lines, et cetera, et cetera. Did you get a chance to have a look at it from that side?
We weren't allowed any electronics at all on the water. Right. We weren't allowed our phones. We weren't allowed our watches. My Apple Watch wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed wing gear. So we were put in a box at the bottom of the start line and had no bloody idea what was going on with the racing. But on our days off, of course, I was watching the other racing, and I really do think sailing coverage, I don't know, I guess over the last 10 years or so has come a long way. Even when you look at the America's Cup and with all the graphics they can put on the screen, and I think world sailing, especially from an Olympic standpoint, should be patted on the back for this.
I agree.
They've made a big investment in around all the World Cup events, and I did a lot of commentary for them leading into the Rio Quad, and it was obviously part of my responsibility to deliver that program back then. But Jordan being there and Aarhus, the combined worlds, and so I guess doing it more, it's a bit like sailing, isn't it? When you do it more often, you get better at it. Yes, and learn how to explain it, and I do think the games coverage was the best we've seen yet.
Great.
Especially when you think from a limited budget standpoint, the America's Cup might have some billionaires that help develop some of that stuff, but the Olympic Games, doing it through sponsorship, and it's pretty cool.
Yep.
To see where it's going.
A few of those
and hopefully it'll explain things more to people.
A few of those guys actually listen in on this show from the production crews that do all that, because there's a lot of the same guys going around and around. So,
well, pat yourselves on the back, lads.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You can. They're listening.
High five yourself.
Yeah, but don't poke yourself in the eye when you do it.
I got safety glasses on. I'm right.
We're just about running out of time here, Paigey, unfortunately. What about sailing for you? Are you doing any sailing for yourself at the moment? I've seen you playing on
not
the
enough.
No?
Not enough. I especially when I came back to Australia, the first summer was no chance because I was commuting from Sydney down to Melbourne to do that job, which was actually more time in Melbourne than back in Sydney. So that was a bit hard. And then last summer I had COVID. So my focus was always, firstly on the 49er and keeping that going. But I hope this summer I might be able to get out and do a bit more. And obviously an old man like me with a few spare tyres, I think it'll be a case of maybe sailing on some keel boats. So it'll be cool. I don't know.
To the 5-0?
I'd love to have a 5-0. Jordan, get ready for the call-up, mate. Yeah. I'd love to have a 5-0 in the garage.
Well,
the VX1, that's potential, good crossover.
VX1, that'd be a good one. You'll have a good time on that. I think, have you sailed one? You have sailed one, haven't you?
Not a VX1, no.
Okay, you'll enjoy that.
But I did a guest appearance in the 18s last year and the 16s, and so I wouldn't mind having a go at the skiffs too this summer.
I'll save you some money, Pagey. Quirky's away and he can't get back in the country. And so if you know where
there's about 5 in his shed.
If you know where his garage is.
You just got to wheel him across the road in the water.
Exactly. It's easy. There's boats there. And, so, yeah, that'll save you some money.
Thanks, Quirkles.
No, it'd be good to see you back out there, mate. And obviously you could add so much value to some of those teams, particularly if you step on a keel boat. You know, you can come in and do the whole team function and do everything on the boat, basically. So that'd be good.
Oh, I couldn't pull the sails up, mate. I'm not strong enough.
Oh, yeah, no, good point. Good point.
Or flaking them at the end of the day.
Anything in front of the mast, no chance.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I should have made that clear.
Yeah, and you get wet.
Once you get past the esky, it's too far forward. That's the rule. Yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions, lads?
No, I've had a blast again. It could go on forever, couldn't it?
It could go.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of esky, probably time to wrap it up because I need to go and get some ice to get ready for the Variety Club Bash.
I thought you said you were going to reach over and grab one out. And
Good luck, Ricey.
Yeah.
Hope you survive, mate. Hope you see you again.
He mightn't survive. I'm pretty certain of that. Yeah. I've had to carry him home a couple of times. Pagey, it's been great fun having you on the show, but also great fun knowing you over the years. As they say, you are a personable bloke and well respected right throughout the community, and it's been awesome to watch your achievements, mate. It's been unreal. I've never seen a person not happy about Pagey having success.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so thanks for joining on the show. Mate, absolute open invitation anytime you want to come on the show, and whenever you want, it's there for you. So
you have to. I had fun.
Yeah.
good on you, mate.
Beauty, Pagey. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, boys.
Enjoy the next 7 days.
And Victor's naked wanderings.
No, good, mate. Well, wealth of experience there. It's great to have him back in Oz, eh?
A real talent. Obviously, he's going to end up, I hope he's going to end up in the Australian coaching team. And, you know, with there's so much change going on, I think that...
Well, the thing is, like we were saying, you kind of need to pull your socks up, right? Only got 3 years to go.
Yeah.
And also he brought up a really good point about the fact that the disciplines that are coming in, we don't have any representation.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be starting from scratch. And I think that needs to be thought about now.
Because I think you asked the question around where sailing ranks in the Olympic sports. I think we're the second most important sport when it comes to medals production.
Well, that would be pretty right.
I guess so.
Well, the rowing did well this
swimming.
year. The rowing and the kayaking did well this year.
Yeah,
but definitely,
but
definitely up there for that side of things for sure.
All the non-Aussies listening, ignore what we're talking about because we don't want you to catch up. All right.
We don't do anything here. We just rock up on the day and go sailing.
Yeah, that's it. As Pagey said, though, the Poms are well advanced at the moment. They're just going so well, that team.
Fantastic effort.
Right, let's move on, boys. Listener of the week. Anyone?
Yes, listener of the week. Special. It's a group listeners of the week.
Right.
Group listener.
Everyone who sent in a negative comment about the pursuit race.
Oh, yes. Back them down.
Yeah,
no vision.
I was watching the comments come through, and I'm like, Jordan's going to bite. He's going to bite. There it goes.
No vision. No vision. They don't understand.
Funny comments, though.
Yeah.
There was some funny comments.
But, well, I think we've got a meeting next week.
I think so.
About Jacobs wanting to understand it and try and put it on. So, I mean, it's just do something different. But the whole point is it makes the sport easy to understand for the non-sailor.
Well, funnily enough, I was just driving this morning with one Caelan Howard.
Oh, yeah?
And you may see this.
Driving
I don't know if you're coming to the actual Nationals, Brett, but you may see this as, let's call it the medal race for the internationals.
Loving it.
I love it.
The medal race.
Love it.
The bar karate. No, it's basically $20 all in, right? Yeah. Knockout series.
Yeah.
And that buys you a couple of beers at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, it's
bloody wonderful.
And you can do it literally right in front. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be hilarious. All right, let's talk about Fastnet. Fastnet was it was
pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. How quick was bloody Gitana, the Rothschild Gitana 17 or whatever? That thing I went to sleep and it was finished.
You do have a long snooze. There's no doubt about it.
About 1 day, 9 hours.
But, mate, yeah, it's like a little day sail.
Day sail, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, that thing is phenomenal. All those boats are phenomenal.
Yeah, all those boats.
Yeah, that was cool. The other one,
of course,
go on, BP. Go.
No, you go.
Oh, the other boat that stood out for me was a Pivia. I was just wrapped by how quick that thing was going.
Yeah.
They've that off the start. I mentioned it last week. They just look ridiculously quick, and they're going well. Did you have something on that, BP?
Oh no, I'm just sitting here looking at the times. Obviously, just go on, keep going.
Basically, this whole foiling monohull thing. It's obviously quite new to the sport, and they're just refining, just finding better ways to sail the boats. Kind of going back to what Malcolm was saying about the whole pumping thing, how it's just been refined into something that now works for everyone. And Charlie and Ep121 have just, it's almost as though they know how that boat works now.
Yeah. And we were just talking about off there a second ago. There is a really good Facebook article that's come up. I haven't had a chance to actually look at the whole thing, but I did get some overview from a few people about it and talking about how they're sailing their angles and starting to work out that you can sail these things, not upwind as such, but you can foil them. And they're trying to work out how to do that. And I think that's the next step when they can get these angles right. In certain conditions, then they're going to go forward leaps and bounds. There's footage of you can see Ep121 basically. The
almost feels as though we're on the verge. Remember when was it Oracle started falling upwind in the 2013 Cup?
Yeah,
like we're on the verge of these boats now taking another leap from a performance point of view. And when you look at their performance around the racetrack compared to the Scorpius or Rambler or anything like that, like they are. It's keep in mind, it's only a 60-foot boat.
A 60-foot boat, yeah. I mean, I love seeing Scorpius on the line. That thing was...
Look, and I've got some... I said a few weeks ago I didn't like the paint job. Yeah, I was wrong.
You're now in love with it.
Yeah. That boat is so good.
Yeah. I guarantee that's cash for comment. That's cash for comment. The Russian billionaires sent him a few bucks to say he likes it.
Yep. I'll be in a Greek villa this time next year. Part of my retirement.
You
go. But I love where sailing's going.
You are the one most likely to be corrupt in this group.
Without a doubt. I will not even argue with that.
I love where sailing's going. We are talking about less crew, this and that, and then this thing comes out 36.
Oh,
yeah, it's insane.
Unreal.
Hey, awesome. So look, we can have a quick look. Hey, I've got to mention, Bicey, Volvo 60, third over the line. I love Poland.
65.
Yeah, so, they're still mixing it up. Let's not forget them.
They're good boats.
Yeah,
you can
we
push
know.
them hard. Especially
there weren't many ships around.
Yeah.
or Spanish fishermen.
Old where's your vodka? He got sacked and Bow Becking took over, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Of course, the overall winner was announced this morning.
Before you do that,
stop.
Oh, before you do that, we do have to talk about speaking of getting sacked and not getting it right. The Rambler 88.
Oh, yes, left hand turn. Yeah, I don't know.
I saw it on the tracker, and it just didn't feel right, and that's because it was illegal.
Yeah. I'd hate. I'd love to be a fly on the wall I guess
discussion
that's a
on
comment
that.
we use.
Yeah.
We use here to see, what the repercussions of that's going to be.
So,
I don't know.
For those that don't know, there is a traffic separation scheme that is part of the race that you've got to round, and Rambler went the wrong side of it. It's an obstruction. It's a mark of the course. You can't. It's not just an obstruction. It's a mark of the course. So you've got to leave it to port, I think, from memory. And they went on the starboard side of it. So wow. So.
Yep.
All that money spent to get the crew together, fly everyone in, and then just
a little brain fade.
Some not so happy people there, I would say.
That's one of the advantages of technology, though. We can see all that now. Like in the past.
There's no hiding, is there?
Yeah, you can't hide any of that stuff now. So,
No.
yeah.
That's right.
Okay, let's talk about the winner. The provisional winner is announced. Go BP.
I'm pretty sure there's some happy people. I mean, Sunrise. Okay, Sunrise rating 1.1 has come in. A JPK 1180 has come in and won it with an elapsed time of 3 days, 21 hours, 24 minutes and 43 seconds.
That's cool.
So they've just finished this morning, got the win. So I think you could say it's a little boat race.
Yeah, which I got it completely wrong because I predicted a big boat. So we better write this date down. Jordan made a mistake.
Don't worry, I've already written it down.
And then we've got,
I think that's the second one I've done on the show.
Triple X, a HH42 in for second.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And I'll just go to the next one. Pata Negra, which is a Lombard 46 in for third.
The Black Duck.
Yeah, there you go. So some interesting results there. Another interesting point, which is a topic of discussion next week for moi, is the double-handed division. Just quickly, the first double-handed boat overall in IRC came 16th, Leon, a JPK 1030 with swell with our mate Henry Bombay and Shirley Robertson in at 18th. So some good results across the board.
Cool. All right, well, that's cool. So it's good to see they got the race away, and then we'll see how much COVID gets spread around now. But beyond that, it was all fantastic. Sail GP, boys, when this goes to air, it'll be on the weekend coming. So Sail GP in Aarhus, 20th to 22nd in Denmark.
So the Rockwall home ground.
Yep.
Let's see if the home ground advantage plays off.
The rock wall home ground. There's a great big rock wall there at Aarhus that everyone sits on to watch the sailing. So it'll be can be quite shifty there. So it'll be fun. I reckon could be a good one.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. So tune into that. Obviously, a lot of the Olympic sailors back in and on the boats. So we should see the level of intensity might go up a little bit even more. So I think it'll be great fun.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Kiwis are going to suffer. We'll see.
The K ones. Let's see.
Yeah, let's
see.
A1W1.
Right. Now, BP.
Oh.
BP.
I'm getting up and going.
You're going to go?
See you, mate.
See you later.
No one's reported this, and I'm not sure if we're allowed to are we allowed to put this out there? It's in the public domain.
Yeah, well, it's been sent to all the members, actual members, that is.
Yeah, let's get it out there. No one else has published it, so we'll put it out there. It's probably been someone will have published it by now. By the time we put this show to air, we're recording a little early. A statement from Martin Hill, president of the International Etrial Class of Australia. The M11 vote was conducted between 3rd of August and 11th of August. Eligible voters, which are active members with one vote per boat, were asked to submit an agree or disagree in response to the following statement. I support M11 boats being permitted to compete in the Australian Nationals and State Championships during the 21-22 season. A 2/3 majority acceptance of submitted ballots was required to indicate member support and agree with the International Committee. 90% voted, 130 out of 145 eligible voters. 56.2% of the vote said yes. 43.8% of the votes said no. So most people want them to race, but they didn't reach the 2/3 majority. So the M11s are out, at least for a year.
Yeah. What I found interesting out of this, out of the 130 votes, is almost half of them. Well, there's 25 M11s?
M11, yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. So there's an extra 40 votes that said agree for people that aren't M11.
Yes.
So I'm not surprised where it's ended up. I'm not sure who makes the rules about it. It has to be 2/3 or 1/3 or half or whatever. But where it's ended up is it's a crying shame for Etchells.
Yep.
Regardless of where things stand, just regardless of right and wrong, the wedge that's being driven here is
It's deep and going to be costly.
I'm not going to say too much.
Other
than before you go on, boss. What really, really hurts me the most out of all this is I'm not going to get to go to my home ground and play. You know, we were hanging to get down to Adelaide, and now that's been taken away as well. So, anyway, we've got a plan.
We've got a plan.
We got plans.
Speaking of plans,
yes.
So I remember when we were speaking with Mark. And I asked him, is this just a $2 million problem? Replace 20 Model 11s.
Yep.
But maybe it's replacing 20 hulls. I mean, you've got kills, you've got rudders, you've got rigs, you've got decks, you've got all those sorts of things. Is that the solution?
Well, I mean, the solution was put forward for the, for the fairing and all that to go through, and there was been no response from the international side of it in regards to stopping that. I mean,
which goes back to my point, BP.
Yep.
I don't think anyone at the international level is trying to find a solution.
They're not.
I think there's a definite intention just to kill it dead.
Sweep it under the carpet.
But unfortunately, it's out there now, and it has to resolve. And there's too many people invested, and I think World Sailing have been drawn into it. So people have to find a solution, and you can't take people's money away.
Well, that's happened.
In good faith. People who bought vessels in good faith, based on the rules, based on the fact that they all measured, they got measurement certificates.
We've got a plaque on the back of our boat. That's the thing.
Wherever you stand on this, for me, it comes down to you can't steal that money from people's pockets. You can't. Yep. So that's the consequence. And so that's why it will go on and on and on and on and on until something happens.
Yep.
I don't care which way it resolves, but it has to resolve where you can't just tell people that they've got...
You can't keep delaying, basically. Yeah.
Well, when you look at the price of these boats, I mean, an Etchell is not a cheap boat. I mean, they're an inshore three-person sailing boat, but to sail it competitively at the top level, I mean, the new boats are not cheap. And this is the big point you're making, Jordan, is that these guys have bought these boats, or these people have bought these boats, I should say, men and women, that in good faith, they're buying a boat, and this has happened to them, and it's not to any fault of their own, and it's not to any fault of the people putting the boats together. I mean, an element in the end of it, it's just not hasn't worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not surprised where it ended up. And a bit of feedback I received, for example, about Malulaba, that a lot of people were actually there competing in the regatta because the Model 11's boats weren't there. So I'm not surprised where it ended up, but again, it's, crying shame.
Crying shame. All right. Anything else from you guys?
That's a negative from my side.
I don't think there is.
Yep.
Really?
Okay, well, there is one little email that turned up in the email book this week from Alistair Murray.
1 a.m.
Many of us will have seen the photo of him on his hiking bench drinking a champagne whilst watching the sailing.
Not looking where he was going.
He's written a personal tribute to the Australian sailing team, with which he is on the committee and on the Australian Sailing Board. So he's invested a lot of time and effort into that. And he's written this big, lengthy personal tribute. His company that he's chairman of has been supporting the Australian sailing team for 50 years. So there's a long and strong tie in there. And he sent us a copy, and it's just too long to read. But he had some great little points. He credited everyone in the team except the cleaning lady. He was about the only person he left off in his little points.
Is that because he didn't like her, or?
I don't know.
No, she was taking the photo of him doing it on the bench, on the hiking bench.
So the only thing I will touch on, he had a whole bunch of little points at the end that, bullet points, but even then I might leave those. But his finish up point. So he's done a bit of homework on Australia and the sailing at the Olympics, and if you're non-Australian, I apologise. I appreciate you listening to the show, and we're doing a non-Australian next week. We're going down another path. We're trying and balance it. A story of Enoshima participants are now part of. Here are some facts just using gold medal numbers that run rankings. So over the past 6 Olympics, sailing is Australia's second most successful sport. That's where I got the number from. There you go. With 10 golds, swimming has 31, cycling 8, rowing 6, athletics 4. Over history, Australia's equal 5th most successful country. So the Poms are the most successful country with 31 gold medals.
Wow.
The USA 19, Norway 17, France 15, Norway. Denmark, Australia and Spain all on 13. Matt Belcher, hey?
Belgium, not there?
Not a country.
Not even in country
anyway.
anyway.
Not even a country. Good point. Well saved. I love it. Matt Belcher is equal to the 7th most successful Olympic sailor of all time in order. Ainsley, Elfstrom, Schumann, Mankin, Scheidt, Grail, so 2 Brazilians in there. And then equal now with Patterson, Reynolds, Percy, Belcher, Mills. Wow.
What a bunch of names.
Yeah.
Obviously, Alistair's in lockdown.
Yeah, nearly all of them are Poms as well. Overall rankings for the past 6 Olympics in gold medals, the Poms 15, Australia 10, Kovalenko 7.
Yeah.
Kovalenko, the country Kovalenko. Where's that?
Where is Kovalenko? I think it's just near Kosciuszko.
Oh, yeah.
It's just...
It's the little town at the base of the mountain. No,
anyway.
Bloody oath, awesome.
Yeah, no, that was cool. We got that email. So if you, maybe Australian Sailing will publish the whole thing, but it was a nice tribute. Well done, Alistair and his team.
Very, very cool.
That's about it. Anything else, boys?
No, all good. Winter's finally coming to an end and we can all kind of view or have visions of sailing one day.
Yeah.
Or look outside and see the blue sky and the wind blowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonder.
Yeah.
Wonder.
And wonder one day that New South Wales will be out of lockdown.
No, another 2 years for that. Yeah. All right. Well,
Then the M11s will be back in. Awesome.
Actually, got nothing to worry about.
No, I'm all good. Yeah. Where's the 2023 national?
Anyway, it's despite the Olympics being over, we've got some great guests lined up for the next few weeks. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't wait.
Bit of an international flavour next week.
Yep.
So all good.
Be a great one.
All right. Well, best of luck with that, boys.
No, we'll wait for you.
We'll wait for you.
Yeah, we'll wait. Sunday night.
The second time, Jay.
Welcome. Have a safe trip, mates, and lots of photos.
Yeah. Farewell.
Look after yourself, Bicey. Have fun, and don't do. Make sure you don't do what.
Yeah. Goodbye, mate.
Say. Have fun. Come on.
I think that's all.
Can I borrow your guitar, actually, around the campfire?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Are we still recording? All right.
All right.
Later.
See you, gents.